Is Aaron going to practice today, or is it going to be the same kind of plan as the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, he will not be practicing today.
Matt, what did you think about his comments about all the mental mistakes going on and possibly replacing guys who aren't practicing well? Did you have to address that at all with your guys today or with him?
Well, no, we definitely addressed just accountability and how we're all accountable to one another, and we need everybody, doing everything the right way. All the little things will add up to big things, and it's how you prepare. It's how you treat people in the building. It's all of that. Everything we do matters. And so I think what he was trying to get across, and you guys can obviously talk to him about that, but is just, everybody's got to be on top of their game. And it starts with us as coaches, first and foremost, making sure we're on the details, making sure that not only do we communicate the finer intricacies of whatever it is, the fundamentals, the plays, but putting our guys through those so that when you get into a game situation, it's not the first time they've ever seen it. So I think collectively, everybody has got to pick up their game, and we're not doing a good enough job, obviously, as an entire football team.
He's got a lot of moving parts around him. We're talking all season about that. Has he been on top of his game?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of times quarterback, and I've said this before, and it's just ironic, where they get too much credit when you win and too much blame when you lose. And it just kind of goes with the nature of the position. But ultimately, for him to be at his best, we need the 10 other guys to be at their best. And so it's just collectively, everybody has to be better. And again, it always starts with myself in terms of making sure that we put our guys in the best position possible. And if we don't, then I feel like I failed those guys. So, nobody's happy with where we're at right now. And all you can do is we can't get back what's already been done. We got to move forward and learn from all the mistakes that we've made. And there's got to be a conscious effort and very deliberate intent in terms of how do we get better? How do we improve? And so that's where our focus lies. It's more within the details, the process, making sure we're fine-tuning everything and not just a lot of stuff can kind of get grazed over when you're winning. And it comes to light when you lose. So, and I'm not saying that necessarily happened, but what I am saying is we just got to be on all the little details and being very intentional about how we go about our business.
Is that any more difficult with, the collection now of receivers that you've had to kind of run through, over these last 4 weeks, ever probably since Sammy went down?
Yeah, no, I think, but if I were to, subscribe to that, to me, that's nothing more than an excuse. You got to find a way. We got to do a better job of putting our guys in position. The guys that know what they're doing, and and if that's changing personnel grouping, whatever it may be, we've got to do a better job collectively.
Matt, when you have missed assignments and mental errors or whatever like you had, is that more correctable in the classroom or on the field? Where does that have to be?
I think it's a combination. I think that there's going to be some things, especially with younger players, that it's almost impossible to show them everything, and there's going to be some learning on the fly. And obviously, you want to mitigate those opportunities by giving them, multiple looks. That's why we practice in the off season, right? And give them a lot of different looks, and you try to stick to with a lot of the things that you've done throughout OTAs and training camp, and that's why I think we have a pretty diverse playbook in terms of just having enough ammo so that when you come to the season, it's not a whole new offense each and every week, that you're sticking with your core concepts, because that's a lot, especially for a younger player. And I've been places before where it has felt like just a lot of new stuff, on a weekly basis, so game plan oriented. And there is going to be some of that on a weekly basis, and really in every phase where you're going to game plan an opponent. But for the most part, you want to kind of pick from what you've already installed, what's kind of the foundation of whatever side of the ball your install is.
Watching the game again, you're right, some penalties at the absolute worst time and putting you behind the sticks. But when I think of the snaps, the reps you take Wednesday through Friday, the walkthrough on Saturday, and you think you've got this down, and you still get 4 or 5 of these missed assignments, is that usually what the opponent's doing, offensively speaking, when it comes to the wrong route, wrong blocking assignment? Is it usually something that throws them that the opponent's giving them?
Not to say that there isn't unscouted looks, but I don't think that necessarily has happened, especially this past game. I mean, they really didn't do anything special. We just had some shuffling around that we did, and it's unfortunate that it happened, and it certainly cost us. But I think a bigger issue was more or less the unforced errors, the holding penalties, illegal procedures, things of that nature that are totally within our control, that we absolutely, every time you go out to practice, I mean, you're going to line up in a formation, right? And you got to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that you communicate. And if one guy's on the ball and one guy's off, you just got to get everybody on the same page. And I think that's pretty correctable.
Matt, when he compares the number of mental mistakes that are happening now versus past years, I'm thinking about the guys that are on the team in past years, and they're all veteran guys who've done it with him and have experience, and the guys that are young don't have to play as much as a Romeo Dobbs has to, or some of these other guys, some of your interior linemen. So as a coach, how do you reduce the number of mental mistakes when the guys that you're coaching do not have the same Rolodex of experience, that they know, like the Romeo play that you talked about on Monday, they know what to do right away when they see it? How do you do
and
that?
let me clarify that he was not in the wrong there. He was
We're clear about that.
he was not in the wrong. It's just it was one of those unforeseen circumstances that arose, and you just I don't know
It's
how
an
it's.
experience thing, right? Like if he was experienced, he probably would have seen it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't want to.
So is that applicable to these mental mistakes that Aaron is?
I don't think that one is in
No,
particular.
I'm saying the inexperience part of it.
Yeah, I think there's going to be. I mean, sometimes younger players are going to have to play through their mistakes. That's going to happen. But it's not just it. Football's an imperfect game. There's 22 guys on the field. There's a lot of moving parts, and the unfortunate thing is if you have one guy that doesn't do their job, it can just totally sabotage a play, whether it's offensively, defensively, or on teams. So, it is about getting all 11 on the same page and making sure that our process, our communication, all of that is on point. And it's going to have to be when you're talking about playing a team like the Buffalo Bills. I mean, this is a pretty complete football team in all three phases. One of the top special teams units, and same with offensively and defensively. They got a ton of playmakers. They play very fast. They played very physical. And so it's going to be a heck of a challenge, not to mention the environment that you got to go into up there. I know it's going to be chaotic. So we're going to have to make sure that our guys are on top of every single detail in order for us to have an opportunity to play our best ball.
So on the flip side, then, if football's an imperfect game, when you're watching film, are there a lot of plays that you have that do work, that one of the 11 still didn't do the right thing? And is it possible to succeed even if guys are making mental mistakes from time to time?
It sure is. I think it's all dependent upon where it is. I think the more it's at the point of attack, I think the harder it is to go out there and execute. So, it really doesn't matter. We have got to fix and try to, get the details across to our guys. Because you got to be able to go out there and execute at a high level. And if you don't, especially, I don't care who you're playing in this league, you will get beat.
From your standpoint, you have to coach the entire team, you have to coach the young guys, you have to play with the guys that you have available. Does it hurt your ability to communicate with the team when the quarterback's calling them out and saying, they shouldn't be playing or whatever? You have to coach this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily. I think that, we have to be truthful with one another, and sometimes the truth hurts, and it's no different than, when your kids make a mistake, right? You tell them about it, and you make sure that. I don't think he publicly called out individuals. I don't believe. I didn't sit there and listen to the whole thing, but. So I just think that you have to get to the root of the truth, and that gives you an opportunity to learn and grow, and we can't run away from that ever. And no different than when we're in those team meetings. We've got, you always call it how it is, and I don't think anybody's off limits, and starting with myself.
Getting back to the intricacies, easy for me to say. So you can only practice 3 days a week. You can't add another practice. You can only spend so much time on the grass. I'm guessing your meeting time is probably limited too. So how do you teach it at a better level when you guys are already probably maxing out what you're doing? I'm sure those guys aren't just sitting back watching, or eating s'mores. I'm sure they're studying and doing what they're supposed to do. So how do you take it from where it is?
S'mores?
Well, I hate s'mores, but I'm trying to come up with something stupid. So how do you get it from what they're doing to where you get to where you have the limited constraints,
Well, I think that's where you got to look at your volume and what you're asking guys to do. Obviously, the more that you put on them, the more opportunity for mistakes. So, whether it's dialing it back a little bit or making sure that it's always tough, especially when you're talking some of the younger players that we have in certain situations. The more you put on their plate, the more opportunity there is for a mistake to happen. And I'm not saying that those necessarily are coming from younger players or whatever, but it's just you got to see the whole picture, and you got to make sure that you're giving them stuff that they can go out there and execute. But at the same time, you don't want to, it's a fine line with how much you give them and what you put on their plate, and just making sure that they can regurgitate the details. I think one thing that we all have to do as a staff a much better job of is less telling, more asking questions, because that's when if the comprehension level of these guys. At the core of this thing, we're teachers first and foremost. So if we're just sitting there telling them everything, and I think by nature that's the tendency of a lot of coaches, myself included. You sit up there and you just talk, and there's got to be a back and forth. You got to make sure that these guys are retaining whatever it is you're telling them.
Stokes was really good for you guys last year. Why do you think it hasn't been quite the same this year?
Well, I don't know what you guys, how you guys are evaluating them.
Do you disagree then? How do you think he's played?
Yeah, I think there's certainly there's some things he could do better. I think, but that goes with everybody. So, I think playing corner is a tough deal in this league, and there's going to be times when you get beat, and you just got to make sure that you're on all the little details like we talked about. You're lined up, you're ready to play. You can recognize splits, all that, route stems, to give you an opportunity to play some of the plays a little bit better.
What do you think Vaughn's added to that defensive front for Buffalo just for this first month of the season?
Yeah, he's pretty disruptive on every play. You better know where he is, because he can wreck a game in a hurry. And it's not just him. This defense plays so well together, very fast, very physical. I think they do a great job, really, in all three levels, disguising. I don't think it's overly complicated, and I mean that in a very complimentary way. They just play their schemes at a incredibly high level, and they're one of the better, if not the best team in the league at just reacting and running to the ball and maintaining leverage and gang tackling. Very few missed tackles. That's the one thing that jumps out on tape. And they just play extremely hard. And I always think that's the starting point for a great defense, and they do all of that.
Matt, is Allen going to miss any games?
We'll see. I don't know. He will not be practicing today.
Matt, so if Lazard can't practice, can Watson practice today? You know, to have-
He'll be in a limited role.
Okay, so you're gonna have him, Dobbs, Toure, and Amari Rogers are, you know, your main guys. So how do you conduct the practice that way? Do you have to alter it a little bit, you know, considering who you're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, you don't want to wear these guys out either. So, like, I think, again, fine line on how we manage it. But the bottom line is we have to go out there. Obviously, they've got a lot of things to clean up, and the best way to do that is doing it full speed on the practice field. So we have to manage it within each individual room and making sure that these guys are getting the recovery they need but also the work they need.